Hey, seventh graders. It's Danielle from SCAZA. We're here to do lesson number 2. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you, or to talk about what we reviewed in our first lesson. Remember, we talked about setting and reaching goals. I hope that you have thought about that during the week and maybe taken some steps in trying to reach your goal, or maybe some of you have accomplished your goal. So I appreciate if you had taken some time to think about that and to do those things. If not, keep working at it. Remember, some goals take longer to accomplish. Today we're going to kind of talk a little bit closer about the decisions we make and how the decisions can either lead us closer to reaching our goals, or they can take us farther away from reaching them. Okay, so lesson 2 is how to make responsible decisions. Okay, each time we make a decision, we go through a process to determine what the best choice will be. However, some decisions require more thought than others. What kinds of decisions do you spend more time on? Okay, usually you spend more time on the big decisions, right? Bigger decisions have more significant consequences. Okay, so that's why it's really important to be able to know how to make a decision the right way. We're going to talk about this in the next slide. We're going to discuss our decision-making poster and the 4 steps that can help you in making the best choice, the best decision that can lead to the best consequences or the best outcomes. So this is our decision-making model. Okay, the steps in this model will help us make good choices or good decisions. Let's go over each step. Okay, so what is the first step? That's right, the first step is to stop. Before making a decision, you need to stop so you can process the elements of the decision at hand. Okay, you don't want to do something that you might regret later. Okay, so it's very important to stop and think about the decision that you are about to make. Okay, you are more likely to act in a careless or impulsive way when you don't stop and think about the question. Okay, so what does impulsive mean? Impulsive means having the tendency to just take action, right? All of a sudden, on your urges and desires. It's just a very quick answer without thinking it through. I'm sure that many of you have made an impulsive decision before, and most of you probably experienced a negative consequence as a result. So we often regret our impulsive actions because they can lead to the negative consequences. Okay. So not all consequences are negative. Can consequences be positive? Yeah. So for example, if you study for a test, you're more likely to get a good grade on that test. Making a good grade is a positive outcome. So positive decision leads to a positive outcome or a positive consequence. Okay, so after we stop and we assess the decision at hand, the next step is to think. Okay, so this takes a little bit more time, this next step. You want to think about what to do. So picture a positive outcome. Think about what you would look like to see happen as a result of a decision you are about to make. Also consider what might be influencing you. Okay, so it might be your friends, your emotions, wanting to fit in, or some other pressures that might affect your judgment. Okay, when you have an idea of what you want to happen, you can then consider what you should do to make that outcome possible. So at this point, you're going to list your options and your consequences, keeping in mind that your options can have both positive and negative consequences. Okay, so you're going to take the time to think through all the outcomes and the possible consequences. Okay, and once you consider the consequences of each action, you can move to step 3, which is act. It's time to act. It's time to make your decision. Okay, and once you've acted out your decision, it's time for you to complete the last step, which is reflect. Okay, so you're going to take the time to reflect on your decision, evaluate how you did, and ask yourself if you made the right choice. If the outcome of your decision wasn't what you expected, consider what you learned and what you could have done differently. Okay, the next time you face a similar decision, You will be more able to reach the desired outcome. Not everyone makes decisions as well as others do. So let's meet a few characters who struggle with their decision making. So we have Marvin the main attraction, Patty procrastinator, impulsive Ike, fearful Felipe, and tag-along Talia. Okay, let's look at Marvin the main attraction. Marvin the main attraction is always trying to impress everyone. He's influenced by attention, whether it is positive or negative. When he pictures a positive outcome, he sees himself in the spotlight. He usually does silly or dangerous stunts in order to attract attention. For example, he arrives late to class and purposely trips as he enters the room to make a scene. Marvin makes poor decisions just so others notice him. Okay, so now we have Patty procrastinator. So what does it mean to procrastinate? It means to put things off till later, okay? Puts off doing something. So Patty always puts off making or acting on decisions until the last minute. She waits to begin a project, or for example, she waits to begin a big project until the night before it's due. Often Patty blames others for her lack of accomplishment and her inability to follow through on even some of the simplest tasks. Okay, so I'm sure we've all procrastinated before, put things off to the last minute, which gives you a lot more pressure. I do not like to procrastinate. Okay, impulsive Ike. The impulsive Ike is an impulsive person who acts first and thinks later. He makes decisions without thinking about the consequences. For instance, Ike might buy something on the spur of the moment, spending all of his allowance, only to get home and say, "What was I thinking?" Ike is often upset with himself because he regrets the decisions he makes. I'm sure we've done that all before. Okay, another poor decision maker is fearful Felipe. He won't try anything new for fear of making the wrong decision and regretting it later. He refuses to participate in a new game or activity, and he seems satisfied doing the same routine. Felipe probably won't accomplish as much as he could because he is afraid to try new things. Okay, so what's influencing Felipe's decision making? That's right, it's fear. Okay, so he's not even going out there and trying. Okay, and lastly, we have tag-along Talia. Talia is perfectly capable of making good decisions, but she doesn't. Instead, she lets others make decisions for her. She goes along with the crowd, even if the activity is risky. Okay, when she gets in trouble, guess what she says? What do you think she says? Well, she says, "They made me do it," right? Tag-along Talia doesn't realize that we are all responsible for our own decisions. Okay, next I'm going to read you some examples of decisions that were made by these 5 friends. And when I read the decision that was made, I want you to think which this decision matches. Does it match something Marvin the main attraction would say, Patty the procrastinator, impulsive Ike, fearful Felipe, or tag-along Talia? Okay, so the first one says, this person has never tried the grilled chicken. He or she always orders a cheeseburger. So who do you think would make the decision? Okay, if you said Felipe, you were right. Okay, he has a fear of what that chicken sandwich might taste like. Okay, never goes out on a limb and tries something new. He's fearful that he might not like it. Doesn't take chances. Okay, good job. All right, how about this person rode an ATV while doing a headstand? Okay, think about that. Is that safe? No. So what are they trying to do when they're taking a risk? They're trying to get someone's attention, right? Okay, so if you said Marvin the main attraction, you are right. Okay, so they're making that decision based on trying to just get attention and taking risks that they know they shouldn't be taking. How about this person? They heard that 2 friends are sneaking out tonight and they decide to go along. Okay, if you said tag-along Talia, you are right. Okay, this person, remember, Talia always does what her friends are doing, doesn't think about the consequences, just goes along with what they're doing. Doesn't make decisions on her own. Okay, good job. This person waited until Thursday to begin a term paper due on Friday. Okay, think of what's happening in this situation. Okay, this term paper was due, but she waited until Thursday, the very last minute, to start this term paper. Term papers take a while, so that person is probably going to be up all night. So if you said Patty the procrastinator, you are correct. Good job. Okay, and the last one is, excuse me, this person bought a pair of shoes because they looked cool, but then realized he or she really would have rather spent the money on a video game. Okay, this was impulsive Ike. Okay, not really thinking it through. The shoes looked cool, but then was really disappointed when they got home because they really would rather a video game. Okay, so those are all just decisions that these 5 friends probably didn't really, or they were influenced by their types of personalities, or they were influenced in ways that helped or led them towards not making the best decision. Okay. But now I want to have you think about what a good decision maker would look like. Okay, so think about it for a second. So what does a good decision maker look like? Well, a good decision maker would stop, right? They would think, they would plan and consider the consequences and the outcomes and the influences that are surrounding them. They would accept responsibility for their own actions, and also, really important, they would learn from their mistakes. Okay, so say they make the decision, they think it's the right one, but when they're in their reflection time of their thinking process, or of their decision-making process, they realize that it probably was a mistake. So what do we do when we make mistakes? We learn from them, we correct them, and we move on, and we don't make that decision again. Okay, so stop and think. The decision is yours. There are many influences that can drive our decisions. As you can see, and we've talked about, emotions such as jealousy and fear can impact our decisions, and sometimes we make poor choices based on our emotions. So when we can identify our emotions and learn how to manage them and recognize them and manage them, it can help us to limit their influence, and so that we can make better choices. Okay, next week we will be discussing what drives our emotions and how we can understand the ways in which they work. Okay, so this week, if you come across a decision that is going to require some more thought, I hope that you think about our stop, think, act, and reflect decision-making model, and hopefully it will help you to make the best choice that can give you the best outcome, best positive outcome. Okay, so that concludes our lesson. We will be meeting next week. Remember to talk about emotions and how our emotions, if we learn how to manage them, identify and manage them, it will help us when we're making decisions. So if you have any questions or comments that you would like to share, please email me at skazaprevention@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. I hope you have a great week.